It's another BumbleKast Mini, sponsored by Pedanticat.
Let's get started. Do you think Sonic should delve more into its environmental themes? It feels like the franchise has kind of distanced itself from its themes of preserving the environment and the dangers of unrestrained industrialization.
Yeah, I think it wouldn't hurt to lean in that direction a bit more again.
All right. I agree with that. I could see that being an interesting thing to pursue. If you could do a retelling of any Sonic game, but with the Muppets as Sonic characters, except for Eggman, which Sonic game would you retell, and how would it play out?
I guess Sonic Adventure? Maybe? SA1 or SA2?
I don't know. SA2 might be funnier.
Maybe for its more concise cast, and I guess slightly more direct storyline.
Yeah.
As to who would be cast as whom, that's a little tricky. I mean, you cast Piggy as Amy, and she's not going to tell Shadow to remember Maria. She's just going to run up and karate chop him.
I know, but that would be funnier.
Or, no, maybe she should be Rouge. Because if anybody is going to be a diva who steals from somebody else, it's going to be her.
I guess so, yeah. That would be, yeah.
She goes off script. She's the one who shatters the Master Emerald and then looks at Knuckles' stand-in and goes, "What have you done?"
Yeah. Is Kermit Sonic? That seems too obvious and doesn't really fit.
Yeah, it's obvious, but he's so low-key in comparison. And I know he can get strained, but I have a real hard time just imagining him sauntering along down that corridor going, "What you see is what you get. I'm just a guy who likes adventure. Hoo-hoo."
I just don't, I don't see it.
Although it might be worth it to see Gonzo as Shadow. It all starts with this! A gem containing the ultimate power!
Does that make Tails Fozzie?
No, Fozzie's got to be Knuckles.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'll give you that one.
I mean, the Master Emerald shatters and he just kind of does that thing where he grips his bottom jaw and stares in horror. All the enemies here in Pumpkin Hill are quite spirited. Waka waka!
Bum, bum, bum. Oh, man. Yeah, that would be good. Oh, geez. Would Statler and Waldorf be Orbot and Cubot?
Well, they weren't in SA2, but we might as well.
I mean, they gotta be up heckling things somehow. We need some of that. We need that. Who cameos is Big?
Big. It's just the cameo.
Yeah, okay, well, I guess so.
And in a complete miscast, Sam the Eagle is Tails.
Oh.
What have you done to Sonic? I will never forgive you for this.
That would be pretty funny. Wow. I mean, yeah. I think it works. Could make it work. Next question. You've made some comments in the past about how you don't like how some things within the Sonic franchise don't look very Sonic-y, such as the Zeddy, Black Arms, and Metarex, which makes me confused, since you seemed fine with things that look even less Sonic-y, such as the Time Eater, Perfect Chaos, Dark Gaia, and Solaris. So what exactly do you mean about something not looking Sonic-y? And why did the ones you listed bug you, but not the other monsters and Eldritch Abominations?
Oh, they still do as well. It's just stuff like the Deadly Six and Black Arms and Metarex and what have you were reoccurring elements. They were not end bosses or one-off things. Well, I mean, the Black Arms kind of, but I mean, they were like stage enemies. They were treated as elements that existed within Sonic's world for some duration. Whereas the final bosses of those caliber are supposed to be these crazy high-end godly beings that are not normal. Like perfect chaos is not the normal state of chaos. It is not a normal run-of-the-mill creature of Sonic's world. It is the embodiment of centuries of rage. Solaris is this ethereal center of all time. You're not going to see that, floating through the sky with a flicky. That's kind of into the world scenario. So I'm a little more forgiving of that, but it's no more reasonable than anything else.
Yeah, and they're kind of like you say, they are just end bosses. They aren't like they don't even really necessarily communicate or factor into the story other than, suddenly they just show up at the end, or, over time they sort of build up, like in Perfect Chaos's case. But
yeah,
Perfect Chaos doesn't really factor into, or I should say Chaos doesn't really factor into like dialogue between the characters or anything. It's just, basically there to serve as a boss throughout the game. So
that and Chaos in his natural state, you can see the connection to the Chao. He looks like a weird Chao.
Right.
That much isn't too much of a stretch. When you're getting into these things that are, beyond mortal comprehension type of stuff, that I feel like is a little more forgivable. It's almost kind of like in the same vein as the Nightmare Fuel bosses for Kirby. Like everything else in the series is cutesy and brightly colorful and round. And then you get the was at the end. So
right.
in Sonic's world, everything is, brightly colorful and animal and just recognizable enough to feel like, okay, this might work in a functioning environment. And then you get your end boss and it's like, was that?
Everyone's got a giant beach ball head. It's fine. Don't worry about it. How do necks work? Oh, right. They don't have necks. If you were to do a Chaotix and Batman crossover, how would you go about doing it? What Batman villain do you have the Caped Crusader and lovable detectives team up against? Which specific Robin and Batgirl would you want to use? And most importantly, which of the Chaotix gets to drive the Batmobile?
Well, I feel like you'd need some kind of team up between a Sonic baddie and a Batman baddie to get the Chaotix on the case. Or the Batman baddie has done something that's affected Sonic's world to bring them in on the investigation. Or maybe it's something completely unrelated and completely innocuous, and they just happen to get roped into a much larger scheme with Batman along. And every now and again, Vector comes up with a realization before Bruce does, or SB is able to infiltrate where Bruce couldn't. And he's kind of like, all right, this is weird, but we're going to run with it. We're going to work with it. He's overused to hell and back, but I kind of want to say Joker just because he kidnaps Charmy as a hostage, but Charmy starts telling all these like preschool jokes, but does it with such conviction that he actually gets him to laugh. And so he stops being a hostage and kind of gets recruited into Joker's gang.
Okay.
Also, Charmy decides to dress up as a Robin at some point, and Damien hates it with a burning passion.
Oh no, not Damien.
Oh,
it's got to be Damien.
Absolutely.
Why is
Damien's fun. All right,
okay.
Damien's fun.
Okay, I guess.
Killer assassin brat child.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right, fine. Just for that, and Cassandra Cain, Batgirl. Then that's fine. Be.
That's fine. There's so many big personalities in this. Having someone more reserved would certainly work as an excellent foil.
Yes.
And here's the thing: we're gonna have to play into the multiversal aspect because Vector is a comic collector. He knows Gotham inside and out.
Good point. Yeah.
So as we enter the third act and they need backup and he's in the cave, he's the one who gets into the Batmobile and just has this moment of, oh, yeah.
Yes. I love it. That's awesome. Oh, man. If you could have a story that would feature a 4-person team consisting of one version of Sonic, Tails, Amy, and Knuckles, which versions for each character would you pick, and what would the dynamic be? Example, Movie Knuckles, Classic Amy, Boom Sonic, and Modern Tails.
What story are we telling? Or is that the point, is to throw the multiverse in a blender and see what pops out?
I think it would be that one.
I'm kind of inclined to go with Boom Knuckles, because that's a guaranteed punchline no matter what.
Yeah.
Movie Sonic, because he would have the power, but he wouldn't have the decisive leadership necessarily. Like modern Sonic would say, I'm going to do this, y'all catch up. Whereas Movie Sonic would not necessarily be in that same vein.
Or he would try to do that, but not really make it. It wouldn't really work for him the same way.
Which would make modern Tails an interesting foil because he's so much more experienced and comparatively mature. Here he would be working with a Sonic that isn't the beacon that he follows. It's someone that he has to kind of help guide. And I guess that forces our hand to make it Classic Amy, but that puts her in kind of a support role where she's aspiring to assist with everyone else instead of being the go-to win button hammer that Boom or Modern would be. And antics with her and Boom Knuckles would be absolutely adorable.
Well, heck, I think you just did it. I like that one. I also like the team up that Banana Cat gives as an example, though. Like, I mean, come on. Idris Elba Knuckles? Yes, please.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Boom Sonic, though, seems like he would be a bit too, I don't know, lazy.
A little cavalier.
For modern Tails' taste. He'd be like, what are you doing, man? Come on. And then Classic Amy's just like, I don't know, smitten with everybody. Like,
Classic Amy sees Boom Sonic's neckerchief thing, kind of wrinkles your nose, and then takes it away to wash it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, maybe not Boom Sonic. She wouldn't be so smitten with. But Movie Knuckles, I mean, we're all smitten with that guy. What are your guys' thoughts on the other iconic characters from the TMNT franchise, such as Splinter, April, Casey, and Shredder? And what are your favorite incarnations of each of them?
I think my favorite Splinter is from the 2012, I want to say, CG.
The CG cartoon one? Yep, same.
I like that design. I like that delivery. I like his relationship with the turtles. He was just a badass. So
yes.
That being said, Rise's version grew on me. The initial first impression was rough. Let's make no mistake. But once you got into Yoshi's backstory and understood what brought him to this point, that I found really interesting and a nice fresh take on things. And it makes him rather tragic, if you look at it that way. So watching him, you basically get introduced to him when he's at his rock bottom. And the show is him clawing his way back up to relevance. So for something different and, kind of heartfelt, I kind of dig that version. April? I mean, Rise's version is fun, to be sure.
Right, yeah.
But it's such a departure from all the others, which is part of the reason why it's fun. But I don't know. I feel like the 2012 version was robbed.
Yes. A lot of characters in 2012 were robbed.
There were lots of avenues they could have gone with her, and they just didn't.
Yeah, same with Karai and for 2012.
Yeah.
It's like both of them really got the short end of the stick, and it's really disappointing.
And for the life of me, I can't remember much of her contribution in the 2000s version.
I don't remember. I still haven't really seen much of it.
I mean, I know they took her more back to her roots with being Baxter's assistant. Beyond that, I can't remember much at all. But then again, I don't remember a ton of that show, so that may not be the character. That just might be my faulty memory.
And then the 80s version was more just she got kidnapped a lot. Yeah. That being said, I do love her. I do love that they gave her a lot more agency in at least in Shredder's Revenge, and I've actually made her a full-fledged character. She's fun
No.
in that game.
Best April is first movie April.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, actually. Yep, I think you're onto something there.
Like, right there. Absolutely. No contest. And I'm going to dare say the same for Casey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, just wasted in the third movie, but...
well, I mean, the third movie was a waste in general.
True enough. But, I don't know, his personal arc, his little moments of vulnerability, the swagger, everything about him was just... That's a good Casey.
Mm-hmm.
Not a fan of the 2012 Casey, gonna be honest. I got real tired of him real quick.
He kind of started off obnoxious, but I think it feels like he gets better. But yeah, not the greatest.
He maintains obnoxious. Nah. And what they did with him in Rise is kind of interesting, but that's so short a notion, or such a short look at him. It's really kind of hard to compare.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Shredder, yeah.
Goodness.
I mean, the movie version of him at least is kind of cool, but he got robbed in Super Shredder mode. It's like, what the heck?
Yeah. Movie version's good because he's, used just the right amount.
Yeah.
He has presence. But the 2012 Shredder, whenever he showed up, it was a big deal. Because I don't think he ever lost a fight until the end of the series.
That's true. Yeah, he actually... Yeah, that was really interesting, is that he was very much, like, always on the offensive end. He was never... Yeah, he was never he never got defeated, really. Which was interesting.
If he didn't win, neither did the heroes.
Right.
It was usually, you lick your wounds and you manage to escape. He was a presence.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
What Rise did with the whole Shredder mythos was interesting. And God, was it glorious to watch animated. But that one I feel like is so different that it's more Shredder in name than like the actual character, which is fine. It's an interesting take on the mythos, but I wouldn't call that sucky.
Krang has gone through kind of some weird incarnations. I think the 2012 version of Krang's is more in line with the original comics rather than what people might be more familiar with from the 80s cartoon. So
yeah. And the IDW series has done some interesting stuff with Shredder and where they're taking him now. So that'll be neat to see where they go with that.
Yeah. I mean, I like versions of all of them, really.
Sure.
They're great characters. So yeah. How would all versions of Knuckles interact if they met each other? Is modern Knuckles jealous of the fact that so many of his counterparts get to live their life carefree? And when they all inevitably fight each other to see who's the strongest, which Knuckles is the last one standing?
I think that would certainly be in the back of his mind, but he would be more put off with the lack of diligence and seriousness in like Boom Knuckles. Where's the training? Where's the restraint? Where's the dedication? I mean, you've been skipping leg day, obviously. And honestly, Classic isn't that much different, so they'd almost be like mirroring each other for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, who comes out on top of that one, though? Is it Idris Elba again? I mean, he's got lightning powers.
He'd be a little too hardcore for modern and Classic.
He's got lightning powers. I think he kind of has to win by default there.
What he's pulled off in the movie, he might actually have the edge, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically, like, the way he moves is kind of Hulk-esque, so, like, no one else moves quite like that. No other Knuckles. So, yeah. If characters that weren't allowed to be used at the time, such as Mighty, Ray, Honey, Styx, the Hooligans, Witch Carters, and the Battlebird Armada, were allowed to be in the IDW book during the Zombot apocalypse, how would you have gone about using them? Of those characters listed, who would you have chosen to get infected or emotionally traumatized? And depending on who survived, which member of the Zeti would you have them help fight?
Hard to say, especially with that big of a list. Then the idea of setting up and properly dealing with each and every one of them would probably add another year to that saga, and no, No, it was long as it was. Adding more, maybe if we had like a second annual special to kind of dabble in some stuff, little vignettes, maybe. But the pacing was already, as fast as it should have been, but still a bit long in the tooth. So, little ideas like Styx was already a prepper. She saw this coming from a mile away. She rides it out with no problem. Hooligans, I don't know, maybe they tried to pull a job in an infested city because who's going to stop them? Any kind of security or law enforcement has been zombotted, except they bite off more than they can chew and they end up getting grabbed themselves. Fang selfishly, Bean for being a goofball. Them bombs can't blow up everything, and then, maybe Bark gets grabbed attempting to save Bean.
Yeah.
Witch Carters, I don't know, they're bad guys. They get zombotted. Not a big deal. The Armada tries to just fly above it all and wait it out, except for that one soldier who comes back. Oh, they were fine. It was a close call, but they certainly weren't infected, and, you end on a shot that they're a little metallic looking.
Oh, no.
Mighty and Ray. Now, the knee-jerk reaction is to have Mighty, like, hold up the dam of infected so everyone else can escape with his incredible strength and whatnot. And Ray is the one, poor, helpless little Ray. But I think it would be way more satisfying if it's Ray who gets grabbed. Like, it's a near miss. He and Mighty are getting out of the town. They're saved, except somebody grabs Ray's tail and pulls him back. And oh no, he's been lost. And Mighty is just done with this whole metal virus thing. He has to beat a Zeddy to fix this. He's going to beat a Zeddy. And it doesn't matter which one you put in front of him. He's just going to casually walk up to them and turn them into oatmeal. Just, the Zeti before him is threatening or mocking or chiding or whatever. They're villainously monologuing as he just casually walks up, thumps them hard enough to make the Chaos Emerald pop out, and walks back to the portal. No words exchanged. He's just done with this. He's going to get this done right.
Punished Mighty.
And Honey, I almost see her going out similarly to Styx, holding the line, kicking a bunch of ass until the virus finally takes her over.
Wait, Styx would do that?
No, Honey.
No, I know, but you said he's going out similar to Styx.
Sorry, Tangle.
Okay, I was gonna say what? I thought Styx was hiding in her hole, writing it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I read Styx off the screen as I was saying that. So.
Yeah. Okay. Confused me. Let's say, hypothetically, Breezy and her media empire existed within the IDW universe, with Belle coming across Breezy's radar. What would Breezy make of Belle and vice versa? And would Belle be tempted by the idea of working for her? While Breezy is a morally gray villain, she does share Belle's desire to repair and take care of all the robots Eggman has abandoned over the years.
I think that would be Belle's takeaway, is that she does not trust this lady, but there's an opportunity to do good.
Mm-hmm.
So shouldn't she take the personal risk in exchange for doing the greater good? Whereas Breezy would be kind of fascinated with Belle. Here's Eggman craftsmanship without any of the traditional hallmarks, and she's just as aware and functional as she is. How curious. Maybe I can get something out of this. Maybe I can discover something about myself. We'll keep an eye on this one.
Fascinating. And here's our next question. Whenever I'm working on an original story, one thing that ends up proving a problem for me are plot holes. Many times I have made good progress in a story with a friend of mine, only to run into a glaring plot hole with me abandoning the story for the moment, since I have no idea how to deal with it. How do you avoid stressing out about plot holes and making sure everything makes perfect sense in a story? I know that no story is ever going to be 100% airtight, but I know it's also important to make sure things make sense, so the audience doesn't go, how come the character didn't do X, Y, or Z?
Part of it is you have to not stress over it. Sometimes...
But that's hard.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. And also you have to understand what is an actual plot hole. Some folks will point out, oh, this character made a mistake. That's a plot hole. It's like, no, the character is fallible. They made a mistake. in a perfect world, sure, they should have said this or done this or thought of that, but they're not perfect. And so they didn't. And as long as that's within reason for that character, that's not a plot hole. That's character fallibility. That's perfectly fine. So that's what I mean by don't stress over it too much. As long as the character actions make sense within the context of who they are and where they are, you should be all right. And there's at least some plausible wiggle room. As for plotting, I would say approach it at the macro first. Where are you starting? Where are you ending? How do you want to get there? And then as you plot it out beat by beat, if you have to, work backwards. If you are at point 2, you're on XYZ, well, on your line there at point X2, it's relying on X1. Does it make sense going from X1 to X2? And does that conflict with anything that you've done with Y5? Look at the whole litany of things and make sure that each point correlates properly to the other. Read it backwards if you have to, or if you really don't have the critical eye for it, show it to someone else. And if they have a question like, how does this make sense? I don't follow this. Can you explain it to me? There, you've fallen short because they shouldn't have that question. If you constructed it correctly, then they get it. They follow the ride. And if your explanation is too long, like if you really have to explain what's happening, you gotta go back and tinker with your plot line. And don't let when you do find a plot hole, when you do find something that's just irreconcilable, don't give up on it. I mean, sure, it's frustrating, but look at it and see, why is it a plot hole? What is the problem it's causing? Where is the incongruity? And follow that thread back. Is it something that can be easily fixed with a minor tweak? Reword something, move the pacing somewhere else, approach it from a different angle? Or is it something that can be explained and that gives you a new subplot or a new avenue of approach? Don't just look at this and go, I'm an idiot, and throw it out. Not that I've ever done anything like that. Use these opportunities to grow and refine. Prune your bonsai. Do not catch it on fire.
Well, darn, that's no fun. What's the rule regarding giving Sonic characters new attacks and abilities? Can you only have them do attacks that were established in the games, or can you create brand new attacks for them as long as it's something that you could see characters feasibly doing, which reflect their established skill set?
Pretty sure we can't give them any new moves. Like if it's something like Sonic runs up to an enemy and bops him one, that's nothing. But if we give something like a name and a specific technique, that would probably have to be approved by Sega as a thing.
Yeah. Are you allowed to use fake Chaos Emeralds within the comics? While they aren't as powerful as the actual Chaos Emerald, they don't seem to be completely useless, since Sonic was able to perform Chaos Control with the one Tails made, or how in Season 3 of Sonic X, the Metarex fake emeralds powered their factories.
I will be kind of sort of touching on that in the future. Stay tuned.
Hashtag knowing smile?
Maybe.
If you had gotten to write the Mega Man X book like you were hoping to, would you have sprinkled in nods from the classic Mega Man timeline apart from the ones within the games? Whether it be references to past locations, descendants of humans characters serving in supporting cast X and Zero, or perhaps even Robot Masters appearing?
No, because the division between classic and X is still a mystery, and the more threads you weave to link the two, the harder it is to ignore the question of what happened. Now, the stuff that's in the games is there. That's established. And that might be fun to reference. But having descendants or having surviving Robot Masters or anything else, it just begs the question, why are you dancing around the question when you're bridging these two series that are otherwise worlds apart?
Yeah. It's also kind of hard to say, you wouldn't be able to necessarily establish these things because Capcom would probably not let you.
Right.
They wouldn't want to establish it in the comics before they got the chance to establish it themselves and blah, blah, blah. The main BumbleKast, Team Sonic and Team Eggman, have assembled once again for the viewing of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. What do they think of the blockbuster sequel? Did Styx see the wedding twist coming from a mile away? Since Chaos Emeralds don't exist in their universe, how shocked and awestruck are they all by Supersonic? And who among the characters went aw when Sonic called Tom Dad?
Working backwards, everyone went aw. Eggman the loudest.
Yeah, of course.
The Supersonic moment, everyone just kind of stops and turns to look at Sonic, and he kind of shrugs and says, I don't know, I can't do that.
Have you ever tried?
And-
No.
And Styx did see the twist coming, but she thought it was the bride.
Oh, yeah. Well, she was close, at least. She knew the government was involved somehow.
Alternatively, she doesn't trust Tom at all. Hasn't since the first movie. He's up to something.
I mean, he's a cop, so... I mean, he's up to something. And finally, our last question from Pedanticat. Many Sonic characters are known for their sick burns and solid roasts. So on a scale from 1 to 10, how would you rank the roasting abilities of various Sonic characters, including the Freedom Fighters and the IDW cast? And before one of you makes the obvious joke, no, Blaze doesn't automatically get a 10 just because she can literally roast people.
Yeah.
But she does get a 10 because she could freaking roast. She has good burns and solid roasts. She could do them literally and figuratively.
I'm going to tone it down to an 8 for Blaze just because when she says something scathing, it will destroy you, but she's not usually the one to do that.
No, I know.
It's kind of like that perfect moment when she delivers the killing blow. Otherwise, she's above that. Sonic is a 10. Sonic embodies that. That is what Sonic do.
Would that also make Shadow a 10? It's hard to say. It depends on which incarnation of Shadow we're talking about, I suppose.
Yeah, Shadow, I would imagine he's just kind of a 5. Like, his disdain for everyone is genuine and scathing, but it's not particularly witty and not necessarily earned all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think Eggman gets an honorary 10 just for what he did to Starline.
Tails has some surprisingly good zingers if Lost World's anything to go by.
Yeah. We'll give him an 8 for being a bit sassy.
Yeah, he's learned from the best, and the best is Sonic, so yeah.
I think if you really pushed Amy to the point where she decided to tear you down verbally rather than smush you with the hammer, she'd come up with something that isn't necessarily the wittiest, but it would completely unravel your soul.
It would hurt.
Like make you really stop and go, oh, am I the bad guy?
Most likely, yes.
We'll give that a 7 just because it takes the right circumstance and it takes a lot of words, but its potency is right there.
Yeah.
Jet, we're going to give him a 5 because it's going to be puerile and it's going to be juvenile, but it's still going to get under your skin and you're still going to be thinking about it. It gets in your head and he wins.
He's a bit of a try-hard kind of jerk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas Wave's going to be up there with Amy, where if she decides she's going to waste her breath on you, she's going to make sure to fully deconstruct your very being.
Yeah. Rouge, I mean, she'll tear anybody down, I think. I feel like she would be right on.
I feel like she wouldn't do it directly. It would be more like backhanded compliments.
Well, yeah. It would be backhanded compliments, but they would be super duper roasty.
So we'll make that a 7. It's not a direct teardown, but it's done with class and style.
Yeah. What about the IDW cast? Tangle. I feel like Tangle
she's a 0.
She would have like a really tough time actually doing it.
If she tried to do it verbally, she'd just get tongue-tied, so she's just going to punch you.
Pretty much.
Same with Whisper. She's not going to waste words. If she's going to tear you down, it's going to be with a trigger.
Mm-hmm. Silver, like you probably couldn't even
0
start. Yeah.
He's a salmon roll.
Pretty much.
If he's angry at you, he's just going to be indignant.
Would Jewel surprise everybody? Absolutely.
No, she just gives you that cold, despondent, disappointed look.
Okay.
That'll register a 4. She doesn't say anything, but just the look in her eye tells you, I done goofed.
What about Bark?
There's a reason why he's silent. It's to contain his power.
What about Big?
Big doesn't say an unkind word about anyone or anything. Big is love. Big is life.
But if he did, probably would. And the Freedom Fighters? Ah, man. Hard to say.
Sally's kind of in the same line as Amy and Wave. Is she will deconstruct you verbally.
Yes. She will demolish you, and it will be
I feel
glorious.
like Rotor's a slower burn. He's not as confrontational, at least if we're taking like pre-boot SAT AM style Rotor.
Mm-hmm.
But when he does say something, it's going to be succinct and it's going to be scathing.
Yeah.
Bunny
will go
might have
off.
had a point. Oh, Bunny will go off on a tirade.
Absolutely. Yes. Without a doubt. She's a 10.
Antoine probably said something scathing, but all the mixed metaphors just kind of make it incomprehensible.
It's hard to tell.
You just know he's mad.
Yes. He accidentally slips into French too much. It's hard to understand him. All right. I think we've gone for enough. I don't know. Honey, I don't know. What would she be like? She'd probably be... She'd be pretty harsh, I think.
She has a critical eye, both in combat and fashion. She's a 10 for sure.
Yeah. She's got a bit of a mouth. Yeah, she could roast anything. Yeah.
Well, thank you to Pedanticat for sponsoring this BumbleKast Mini. Head over to patreon.com/BumbleKast and Ko-fi.com/BumbleKast to find out how you can get a BumbleKast Mini of your own.
Thanks for listening.